Good morning, everyone. Morning. So let's get the PowerPoint started and we'll just jump in. We don't have that much time, but how many people are using some Lean IT right now, applying Lean IT in your organization? Quite a few hands. What about Agile? About the same amount. What about DevOps? And a few. So is anybody kind of going through a little bit of identity crisis here where we're saying, yeah, we've got a few people saying, what are we doing? Is it Lean IT? Is it Agile? Is it DevOps? Does it matter? Or do these fit together? So what we're going to talk about a little bit is it really a puzzle? And how do I make it all work? How can it come together? There we go. A little bit about me. I've been doing this for over 20 years. Started many years ago before it was called Lean, and certainly before it was called Lean IT. It was called World-Class Manufacturing. We were all trying to copy Toyota and what they were doing. And throughout the years, I've been very fortunate to apply this in different industries, but my passion is information and technology. I work with the Lean Enterprise Institute, the Shingo Institute, Theta Care Network for Healthcare Value, and Ohio State University. These are all groups that are a great platform, and I've written a couple of books along the way. These are some of the companies I've had an opportunity to work with. So the things I'm talking about are really not so much theory, but actual practice and where we've learned these things. Really what we want to talk about is how do we fit all this together and go a little bit deeper on the principles. So I would suggest that all models are useful, but none of them are exactly perfect. In other words, I'm going to share a few models, but it's not about blindly following a single model. I think we can get something of benefit from Lean IT certainly, but also from service management, from DevOps, from many different sources. So this is the only slide I'll have that has any reference to Toyota. We're not here to talk about the Toyota production system. But Taiichi Ohno really gave us the modern version of Lean. And it's interesting to point out that one of his great insights was this has to be perceived as a system. It's not about taking parts of the system, and it's not about doing something occasionally. It's about daily practice, and it's about systems thinking. This is super important. So this is what I see in most IT organizations. And what I mean by that is we have invisibility. I would suggest that there are two things within IT that are very, very difficult to see. And it makes applying Lean very challenging. What might those two things be? Think about it in your own mind. What are two things that are invisible in IT? Well, you probably thought, well, the first one is our work. You can't really see it. You walk into an IT department, you see some people talking on the keyboard, but it's not like we can see work being built. It's not like we see cars or television sets or things. We're managing, for the most part, information and service flow. Isn't that true? We do have some artifacts, but mostly not. So what have we done to make the work visible? We've introduced a visual management system. We've introduced Kanban. We've introduced team stand-ups. How many people are using some kind of a visual management system right now? Imagine your day without that. You wouldn't be able to see the work. And really, about 10 years ago, very few IT groups were even doing anything like this. This is good, but it's still a challenge because there are two things that we can't see. One is the work. We've made strides using Kanban, some kind of visible board, visuality boards. That's helped. The other thing that we can't see is culture. It's how our people really get along, what they believe in, and what drives their behavior. So I like to use the analogy of an iceberg. At the top of the iceberg, we can see how people are acting and what they're making, artifacts. So their report, their speech, what they're doing, how they behave. We can see that, but just below the surface are what I like to call agreements. So these aren't written down, but these are agreements on how we will act, how we will behave, how we will treat one another when no one else is looking. This is how we get the work done. So how many people work in an environment that's very stressful, very chaotic? This is IT. Do you have a stressful environment? Yeah. Thank you. So of course we do. So our agreements are, we can't write down every rule, but this is basically the rules of how we do work. This is our culture. But below that, which is also invisible, is really our assumptions, our beliefs, how we view the world. And what I find in many cultures, in many organizations, we intellectually understand Lean, Agile, and DevOps, but it's not really part of our belief system. It's a separate thing. It's just a tool. Managers set the tone, or rather leaders set the tone, managers deploy it, but it's really the associates, the frontline associates, that are the amplifier of your culture. And what I find is all three of these levels of people have to be aligned. And typically what I see is leaders that say, yes, we need Lean, we need improvement, we need a culture of continuous service improvement. And I see associates saying, I'm dying here. Anything you can do to make my job better would be good. But the managers say, what's my role? What do I do? And we don't do a very good job aligning this or creating clarity. So really what this is about is this puzzle. Not only do we have Lean IT, Agile, and DevOps that we're trying to make heads and tails out of, but we've also got the invisibility of our work, the fact that the business doesn't really understand what IT does, they still don't, and this culture, this thing called culture. How do you put all that together? Well, if you ask 5 people what is Lean, you're going to get more than 5 different answers. If you ask them what is DevOps, you'll get many, many answers. DevOps is so new, no one really has a definitive answer. A lot of people are claiming they do. And it reminds me of the parable of the 5 blind men and the elephant. So there are 5 blind men, and they're all feeling the elephant, and they're saying, oh, the elephant, the man on the left says the elephant is like a big hose. Another one says, no, it's not like a big hose. It's like a wall. I can feel it. It's a big wall. Somebody else says, no, it's a tree. It's like the trunk of a tree. And they all just have one piece of the elephant. That's a lot like what we're experiencing right now with this puzzle. So if you look at where we came from, you can trace Lean thinking back to the 1700s in Venice. And this was in my first book. We're not going to go through the full timeline, but basically Lean IT is a fairly new thing. ITIL came out in the early 80s. How many people are familiar with ITIL and practicing service management? So from that beginning, we had Lean that really came out, the modern Lean that we think of today really was an invention of post-World War II. So you're talking about the late 40s, early 50s. So it had been around, but then we had ITIL. Then we had Agile come out just after 2000, 2001, 2002 is when we found we heard about the manifesto, started doing Agile. Then DevOps was first coined, that term was coined in 2008 by Patrick Dubois. After that, 3 years later, we published Lean IT. Now, people were dabbling, trying to use this, but really if you think about it, this is new stuff compared to other parts of Lean. So we're seeing Lean being applied into healthcare and government and different areas, but really Lean IT, DevOps, and Agile are very, very young. So understanding Lean, I like to say Lean is basically 3 things: a mindset, a skill set, and a tool set. I need the right thinking, I need the right skills to do the right thing, and of course I need the tools. But often what we do when we think of lean is we only think of the tools. And that's just not right. It's like an architect who is more interested in the tools than the theory of design. It just wouldn't work. You need both. It's about creating and flowing customer value with the least amount of effort required. It's about getting rid of the things that just add extra time, energy, variability. And it's very importantly about respecting people. The way we respect people is by creating an environment where they can make improvements to their work process. So to me, this is lean. And this has been around a long, long time. Another way to look at lean is with this simple cycle. First, we need to understand and create value. We start here. Have we talked to our customer? Do we know what they really want and need? Next, we understand the value stream. How do we flow value to the customer? Next, we actually flow it. We establish pull by producing at a rate that the client wants or the customer wants. But most importantly, we continuously improve. Most organizations I go into that say they're doing lean or agile, I don't see a lot of continuous improvement. This is a daily activity, and most people aren't really doing it. So the secret or the key to lean thinking is this learning cycle: plan, do, check, adjust. How many people are doing PDCA in their workplace? So what I see is we all know what it is, but I see very, very few people actually doing it correctly. And why? Because you can understand something and not do it correctly. Could I find a book on cross-country skiing and understand it, but not really be a cross-country skier? Sure, I could. Unfortunately, sometimes we see this with this little cycle. It looks so simple. I just planned, grasp the situation, I run my experiment, I check, I look at the information, and based on the data, I decide what to do next. That sounds so simple. It's actually very difficult to do. But this, I think, is the essence. If somebody said, what is the essence of lean? It's this learning cycle. Do we understand voice of the customer? What do they really want? Is it all of these things? Which one is most important? Maybe it's something that's not even on this list, but often these are the things that come up. So let's start to put the puzzle together. Service management gives us the discipline, the systems, the structure, the logic, the relationships to run an effective IT organization. But service management alone is not enough. Agile comes along and says, hey, wait a second, can we take these ideas of lean, these building blocks of lean and flow, and using small lot sizes in terms of sprints, can we increase the flow of working software? The answer is yes. Agile makes a big splash. What comes next? Lean IT says, now wait a second, you've used lean concepts to create flow in software development, but what happens if I create a lot of flow in only one department, not the whole value stream? I just get a bottleneck. What was the answer to that bottleneck? Really, it's DevOps. DevOps says this isn't about flowing through development. This is about flowing from concept to launch to maintenance. This is about flowing the SDLC is basically what DevOps is. You take all these together, this is how you get IT value. It's not, we're doing DevOps, we don't care about lean. We're doing Agile, we don't care about service management. The companies that I'm working with that are really, really good at this haven't thrown anything away. They're using what works in the right situation. This is just my personal view, but I see these four pieces of the puzzle as being complementary, not excluding one another. So a little bit on service management. This is really the definitional design, the organization, the relationship between how we build value, how we respond, and keep the business running. how we keep the lights on. This is vital. Companies that say, we don't need service management, we're doing DevOps, I don't think they really understand. How could you do that? Agile. Agile is a wonderful tool. We need it in software development for much higher quality, better teams, faster flow of value. But if we're delivering software and functionality that the business can't use, that's really not value added at all. Again, it's just one link in the chain. Agile has many terms, many tools, many techniques. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but I've seen organizations fall in love with Agile to the point where they're not seeing a broader value stream. I like to use Lean IT as a grounding concept, because whether you're talking about DevOps, Agile, service management, you're talking about enabling everyone else to be successful by delivering the right information at the right time. So a little bit more on Lean IT. Lean IT is about people, process, technology in that order. First, we engage people. Next, we improve the process by eliminating waste, variation, and overburden. And then we start improving the process on a regular basis using PDCA. Then and only then should we be talking about changing technology. And often what I see is first we change the technology, then we talk to the people, then we say, should we have improved the process? It's too late. I was at one organization, they said, yeah, we're bringing in SAP. I said, are you taking this opportunity to improve your processes before you configure SAP? They said, we don't have the time. We don't have the time. How many people have been there? People are laughing. So we don't have the time. This is insane. Because guess what they did? They put in SAP, and what processes do you think they used? Their old, broken processes. This is stupid. This would be like saying, I have a very old car. It's rusted out. It's ready for the junkyard. I know what I'll do. I will take the chassis off the car, and I'll put a brand new chassis on my old rusted car. And then I'll have a new car. It'll run great. You would never do that. That's not good, smart thinking. But that's what we do. So really, Lean IT is this. It's people, process, technology. Always thinking in that order. It's really about engaging and respecting people, creating that teamwork, then improving the process. A very important concept in Lean is value streams. And if you think about it, what DevOps has done very well is say, can we view the Lean value stream to create flow? That's really what they've done. This is a simple picture of it. But you can see in any IT organization we've got our departments, our verticals. We also have value streams that go horizontally from left to right. It's really all about the value stream, not the department. If we focus on application development, which is where we would find typically, say, an application of Agile, and we're using Agile, it's wonderful we're using Agile. But what does the customer care about? The customer, if the customer says, I'm not happy, I'm not getting what I need, I'm not getting the service, I'm not getting the support, I'm not getting the functionality. If we say, oh, that's too bad, but did you know we're using Agile? The customer says, I don't care what you're using, I need what I need. What the customer wants is not just the silo. The customer wants the value stream. The customer needs the coordination between all the departments. And really, DevOps, Lean has been talking about this for years. DevOps is basically saying, how do we do this well in IT? So the challenge that we've got between Dev and Ops, of course, is the conflict in the goals. Development is really all about speed, functionality, releases, deployment. We want to deploy. We want to continuously integrate our changes and get them on the live platform. But operations is saying, now wait a second, slow down. We need stability. We need security. We need availability of the system. We can't afford any kind of crashes or any kind of rollbacks. We don't have that kind of time. And we've got many, many different conflicts that are creating a tension between these two groups. What DevOps says is, let's tear down the wall. We don't need to look at this as what development wants and what ops wants. This is really, what do we need to flow that entire value stream? Here's a nice view of DevOps and what I like to call the learning curve or learning cycle. So typically on the development side, we've got ideation, and we actually take those designs and those requirements, and we build working software. When there's no wall, that working software doesn't actually become a backlog. It becomes deployed. It actually goes in and we operate, and hopefully we've got a cycle where we measure the success and learn. But look at these two cycles within the dev and the ops. These two cycles are actually plan, do, check, adjust cycles. They're learning cycles. So one way to think of DevOps is nothing more is to think of that core of lean. How do we learn? You can also zoom out from this and realize that the entire process is one big learning cycle. So let's go back to service management. Service management gives us structure, stability, discipline. We need it. We have to have it. There's no way that we could say, oh, we don't, who needs that? We'll just wing it. I think we would fall apart. Agile is all about quality and speed. It's typically we see it applied in software development, but more and more I'm seeing Agile applied to project management. So quality and speed, and getting our project managers to think in terms of shorter sprints with deliverable project results versus these long, big bang, let's wait 6 months, 9 months, and discover whether or not what we delivered is what the business really wants. From here, we go back to Lean IT. Lean IT is about that culture. It's about driving a culture of continuous service improvement. This is, in my opinion, the hardest part of all of this. How many people have found that the tools of Lean or Agile or even DevOps are not the hard part? The hard part is the culture. Anybody struggling with that? Yeah, because people go, I understand, I get it, you've given me the training. But then when we go back and try to coach, where's their behavior? Their behavior isn't changed. It's on the old ways of doing things. They understand the new way, but they don't behave the new way. This is what most organizations are facing. It's really so important that we understand what Lean IT is. Why? Because it is the chassis of that car. We talked about that car with the rusted chassis. Just putting a new top on it is not going to make it a new car. What we really need to do is understand what are the inner workings of the car. What is the chassis? What is the frame? The frame is lean thinking. It really is. And if you're not clear on what that is and how to align it with your Agile and DevOps strategy and or your service management strategy, you will not get the culture you're looking for. And then, of course, DevOps is really about, let's take everything we're talking about and extend it to the value stream. Remember the quote from Teiichi Ono at the beginning. We must think in terms of systems. Really, DevOps has caught the imagination of the IT community by saying, how do we create systems thinking? That let's not just focus on development, let's just not focus on service desk, let's just not focus on one piece of the value stream. We've got to look at the whole system. This is challenging, this is difficult, but this is really where we get IT value. It's not just one piece. Now, if you are not doing software development in your organization, you may say, we don't really need Agile. We're not using Scrum. That's fine. I've worked with some companies that say, we're not really using DevOps. We use a little bit of Agile, but we're using a lot of Lean IT. I've worked with other companies that have a different blend. It's almost like these four things, they don't need to be equal amounts. They need to be the right amount for your organization. So what is the right amount? What would that be? Well, how do you define success? How do you define success? If success has to do with mean time to repair, with stability of the system, with customer satisfaction scores, with how many times the business is running around the backside of IT and doing something without including IT. Whatever your measurement is of success, that should dictate your combination of these disciplines. So where do we take this? As you go through the day today, I'd like to ask that you consider how you can use these ideas to be a better Lean IT leader. Whether you call it Lean IT, whether you call it DevOps, Agile, service management, or something else, it really doesn't matter. It's not the word. It's the meaning behind the word. As you go throughout this day, ask yourself, what can I learn that I can take away and really use? Not understand, use. Not, oh, that's fascinating, but apply. If you're not applying it, it's not doing anything. So here's a cycle you can use. Number one, it's up there in the right-hand corner. Commit to personal development. This is a lifelong commitment. This is where you say, I'm going to become a great whatever you want to be. Lean thinker, IT leader, motivator, inspirational team leader. Whatever it is, commit to development. This takes a lifetime. Anybody that thinks we can be lean in 6 months, you got to be crazy. Today, at the end of the day, I'm going to talk about a very large company that's been on their journey for about 10 years. They're doing incredible things, but they're the first to say we're just getting started. So it's not something that you can get to quickly. Pick an approach. I find companies that are just getting started, if they say we're doing a little DevOps, we're doing a little Lean IT, we're doing a little Agile, and we've always done service management, we've had that for a while, they're a little bit unfocused. In other words, they just kind of bounce around to what we call the flavor of the month. Be careful, because what I find is this kind of jumping around confuses people. People say, what are we supposed to do? What is our strategy? And how many people here are leading their lean implementation? You're a coach, you're a leader, you're out there working with people. Anybody? Quite a few. What happens when we confuse people? And they say, well, I talked to one person, they're talking Agile, somebody else is talking DevOps, somebody else used the term lean. Is this different or the same? If there's no clarity, what happens to people when they get confused? They walk away. They say, I don't care anymore. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. So they do not hang on. So pick an approach. It doesn't have to be Lean IT. Call it whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really matter, but just be consistent. Take responsibility to involve other people in doing PDCA and becoming a true lean thinker in their job. So I like to say everyone has 2 jobs. Do your work and improve your work. If you're only doing one of the 2, you're doing half of your job. I don't care if you're the best service desk manager we've got. Are you doing any improvement? No, I don't have time. Guess what? You're doing half your job. Now, that's not the whole story. We don't say this to insult somebody or to criticize them, but we ask this question: what is it about our current processes that do not allow time for this person to make improvement? That's a whole nother topic. But basically, most companies, how much time are people working? Who here has free time? You know, two people have free time. Great, we've got some work for you. So most people will say, I don't have a lot of free time. I'm busy all day long. How on earth would I find time to do improvement? Well, I'll plant a seed. When I tell the story of the company this afternoon, I'll tell you what they did to make time for improvement. But we've got to invest in other people. And really, if you're a leader, your job is to help other people do both parts of their job. Next thing, you must start going and seeing and being with your people more frequently. So remember the slide at the early part of the presentation that had people standing around a Kanban board? How many people here see their team every day? How many managers do we have here? A few managers? If you're a manager, is it hard to get to the Gemba? You know this word Gemba, the shop floor where the work is done? Is it hard to go visit your people and see them working? In the States, most managers have meetings all day long, back to back to back to back to back to back to back, lunch, back to back to back to back, home. And that's their whole day. It's nothing but meetings. So a couple of people saying, yes, this is my life. This is what I do. You know, you've watched me before. This is about making time, 5 to 10 minutes, going down and not talking, watching, observing. When we go to the Gemba, we go to the Gemba first to understand, then to talk. So at first, go to the Gemba. I always say the first 3 weeks, we say nothing except, hello, I'm here, I'm watching the process. And then we stand back, we walk over here, and we watch. We just watch. When we watch, we look for 3 things. First of all, is the purpose of the department clear? Do they know why they're here? Have we ever talked about that? Is there something on the wall that says, this is why we show up? Is that clear? I'm surprised most places I go into, it's not clear at all. It's assumed that everybody knows why they are there. And often they don't. But nobody's going to say, excuse me, I've been working here for 5 years. I have a question. What is our purpose? Nobody's going to say that. So a leader needs to come in and say, let's talk about why we're here. Number 2, if the purpose is clear, is the process defined to support the purpose? Often, if you ask somebody that question, they go, what are you talking about? What? Our process is not defined at all. Oh, so you have no well, some of it's defined, but much of it isn't. We just do our work. We just know what to do. How do you know if it's aligned to your purpose? And then thirdly, what about people? Do they collaborate? Are they talking? Are they laughing? Are they smiling? Do they have each other's backs? Is it a high-performance team, or is it simply 12 people working in the same room? Big, big difference. So that's when I go to the Gemba, there's many other things you can look at, but that's a great place to start. And I don't do that by walking up and saying, hello, how are you? Hello, how are you? Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're not running for political office. You're going to the Gemba to understand the flow of work. This is a good way to look. Provide a clear direction. Great leaders repeat themselves frequently. They repeat themselves. And what they say over and over is, how can I link my customer's smile to the work we do every day? And what leaders can do is tell a good story. if I'm a leader and I don't know what makes my customer smile, can I tell that story? Very difficult. I don't know that story. So if you're a leader or a coach or a manager and you want to tell that story but you don't know how to tell that story, the story is about the customer. Who do you need to go see? Your customer. Now, your customer might be the next department. Your customer could be the service desk. Your customer could be a business unit. Your customer could be a sales department. When was the last time you really, really, really stood in their shoes to understand what makes them smile? For most of us, the answer is, I'm making assumptions. I assume what they expect from me is timely reports. And we're cranking out reports on a timely basis, so I'm sure they're happy. You need more than that. You need to talk to them so you can tell this story. And then, very important, how do I support and create a practice of daily improvement, or what we call daily Kaizen? How do I do it every single day? Here's the clue. You must do it every single day. You must practice PDCA every day. Well, most managers say, I understand it. Yes, but do you do it? It's great that you understand it, but understanding and doing are two very, very different things. Do you do it? And often what I get from managers is, when I have the time. That's not good enough. That would be like saying, do you brush your teeth every day in the morning and in the evening? And if you said, yes, when I have the time, that's not a good answer. You would say, no. This is non-negotiable. This is something we always do. This is something we must do. This cycle is so important. It seems simple, but very, very few people are doing this. You may look at this cycle and say, I do this, but I don't do that. I do this, but I don't do that. It's a system. Remember we talked about a system? We need to use all parts of the system, and we need to do it daily. So we start here, and we move in this order. So in my latest book, we talk about two important pillars. These pillars drive sustained change, and it's a great way to look at DevOps. We're using this for DevOps, Agile, and Lean IT. It's a change machine, and I stumbled on this. This was an accident. We were doing something, it was working well, and we said, what are we doing that's working so well? And then we said, I think we've discovered something here. And basically, it's looking at the system in terms of two pieces. So Lean has always had foundational elements of aligning purpose, improving process, respecting people, structured problem solving, culture of accountability. That's been around for many years. That's not new. But what we noticed is we really have two key systems that we must understand and deploy. The first system we call the Lean production system. This is where the associates create value, identify problems, and make improvement. This is where Agile lives. This is where DevOps lives. This is where service management lives. This is where Lean IT lives. This is where we don't use any of those, but we get our work done. That lives there too. It's whatever we use to get the work done, that's the production system. That's super important, but it's not enough. Most organizations only focus on this left pillar. Look at this pillar. We call it the Lean management system. The Lean management system is for leaders and managers and team leads. What they're doing is, number one, setting direction, modeling key behaviors, and coaching and developing people to become better problem solvers. What I find in most organizations I visit is they're fairly strong on the left pillar. They're doing the lean tools. They're doing daily stand-ups. They have their scrums. They have their retros. They're building a DevOps team. Wonderful. But when you say yes, but do you have a change story? Are you going to the Gemba every day? Do you model ideal behaviors? Do you even know what ideal behaviors are? Are you working on the iceberg? Are you working on the iceberg? That's really the right side. And the answer is, we haven't gotten there yet. Well, what would happen if I built a structure like this, but I left out one of the columns? It'll topple over. This woman in the front is going like this. That's exactly what it would be. It would topple over. So I've got to build both columns or I'm not going to really sustain it. And I've been a part of many organizations that built the first column, failed on the second, either because they didn't try or because they didn't stick with it. Because the second column, which column do you think is easier to build? This one. This column, it's value stream mapping. This column is we'll have Scrum leader training. This column is let's put up a Kanban board. This column is let's do story cards and points. This column is fairly easy. You just read the book and follow the instructions. It's like putting a table together from IKEA. You just kind of read it. I mean, there's more to it than that. I don't mean it's quite that simple, but it is step by step by step. True? Where's the IKEA volume or model for the right pillar? There is none. Now, there's a few books on this that try to describe it, but nobody has said, I found the book, the magic formula on changing culture. However, we stumbled on something that seems to work very, very well. We did it in IT, and now the rest of the company is using it, not just IT. So this is the lean management system. From here, we have what I like to call the super glue. You know super glue? Super glue, when it sticks, does it come apart? No, never. I don't think so, unless you have a solvent. You can't get super glue apart. So the super glue is the visual management system with metrics, and the visual management system cascades through the organization. And I have an example of that in the next presentation. This was the piece when we had the cascading linked value chain through visual management. It really, everything just started to change. The other thing is reflection. So you know what reflection is? When I say the word reflection, what do you think of? Like a mirror? You know, you look in the mirror, you see your reflection. Remember we talked about PDCA? PDCA is a learning cycle. More than a problem-solving cycle, it's a learning cycle. But you really can't learn if you're not doing reflection. Reflection, you stand away from the situation and you say, this is what I know, this is what I need to know, this is what I discovered. How do these fit together? What do I still need to know? What did I learn? What did I not learn? What did I validate? What was a surprise? This is lean thinking. This is learning. This is a piece that's so important. And if everyone in the organization is not practicing this, it falls apart very quickly. To do that, you need a good coaching system, which is a whole other topic. So I want to thank you for your time. I hope this was useful. And hopefully we've got a few comments or questions from the Slido. Thank you.